Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I'm your host, Simone Morris, and I have a passion for empowering others to take responsibility for their careers. Yes, I've written several books on owning your career and am loving hosting this podcast. This podcast is for you if you're willing to make a shift to the driver's seat in your career. We feature leaders who inspire, empower, and motivate you for consistent career action for results. Please continue to join us every Sunday when a new episode is released. Let's get into this week's show. I'm delighted about today's guest. Sheryl Hatwood will be joining the podcast. Sheryl is an entrepreneur, a motivational speaker, and a playwright. She's also a lyricist, a songwriter, an accomplished pianist, super talented. And, she's the owner of Endless Voice Productions. She is a survivor of domestic abuse, and her purpose is to inspire others into overcoming their adversities. I'm delighted to welcome her to the podcast, excited for her to talk about her triumph and how she is successfully navigating her career. Please join me in welcoming this week's guest to the podcast, Sheryl Hatwood. I'm so delighted for this week's episode of the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I have a friend and colleague who is joining the show today, Sheryl Hatwood, the fabulous Sheryl Hatwood. I've known her for quite some time. She has attended one of the Power of Owning Your Career workshops, and I've just been keeping my eye on her career. And listeners, let me tell you, I know that Sheryl is in the driver's seat. I know she's in the driver's seat. So that's why I invited her to the show. Sheryl, come on into the conversation and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Simone. Thank you for having me. I'm just so great, so grateful to be a part of this show and what you're all about, owning your the driver's seat and owning your career and being in the driver's seat. A little bit about me. I am an entrepreneur, a speaker, and an author. I'm the owner and founder of Endless Voice Productions, LLC. And it's a theatrical and event company, which purposes to deliver inspirational messages through theater or through an event, which now has spinned off into Sheryl Hatwood Enterprises, which is She, LLC. And I use that as more of my personal branding, where I speak to women and I speak about the power of the voice and the resilient spirit and take them through the journey of my experiences by sharing my truth.
Sheryl, I feel like we can relate, being a Jill of all trades, because a Caribbean heritage, and we do so much and you do so much. How do you bring it all together to kind of know that you're in the driver's seat holistically?
Well, I had to stop saying yes to other people's dreams. So with the Caribbean culture, they already have plans for your life. And I used to show up how everyone wanted me to show up. And I would be who they thought I wanted to be. And when I realized that I was only doing things for the benefit or for the applause of somebody else, or just to make somebody else proud while I was miserable, I realized that I had to do something different. I've always been in the driver's seat of my career. I just never turned the keys. And so I believe I have the personality. I have a strong driving personality. I love to take risks. I love to, try new things. And I decided, no, I don't want to be the doctor, a nurse, a lawyer, the standard professions, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I was always more of a creative person. I love the arts. I love theater. I love drawing. I loved music. So my career has evolved, and all my experiences in other job industries that were outside of where I am today actually have helped gear my career, because I've learned something. Every every platform, every job, every industry was an opportunity to learn something and mesh them together and create the brand that I have today.
What did you want to be when you were growing up?
I wanted to be an actor. I remember I saw Shamar Moore and I knew I just wanted to star beside him in Young and Restless.
Nice. Of course, in the audience, if you know Shamar Moore, we understand. Yes.
And then I wanted to also draw. I used to draw a lot, and I got a scholarship to a college in the States. And my dad, being Caribbean, and I don't hold it against him, and this is just how they were raised. There was no book to parenting. He said, you can't make a living drawing pictures. So my career was geared towards the traditional roles. And eventually I used all of the arts that I'm interested in, created endless voice productions. So what I think I want to be I know I want to be an actor, then I want to be a lawyer, but that wasn't me. And then I want to be in music and entertainer, something to entertain people. So I'm entertaining the mind in a different way, and not to be like a performer, but just a realist.
What I love about your story, and I can relate to, is number one, being Caribbean. I'm Jamaican, and I remember when I was growing up, I told my mom I wanted to be a teacher, and she was like, teachers don't make any money. And so I went in a completely different direction. And what I love about this story and what you're saying, and that I can relate to, is that when people tell us, no, you can't do that, you find a way to bring it back anyway. So with my work today, I'm still teaching, even if not, and yes, I would say teaching, doing that. So I love that you brought the arts back in because of your love of it. You were able to weave it still today into your career.
Yes, because for me, I like to work. I like to play on words, and words can become life. And I called my company Endless Voice Production because the voice to me is not only speaking, it's delivered, how it's interpreted through art, what you draw, it's interpreted through dance, the movement of dance. It just does something, and it can connect to people and other people in different ways. So there's various aspects of art that touch different people and speak to them different ways. So that's why I say the voice is endless in how it's perceived and received, and hence the name of my company.
Love that. So you have your time in corporate America. You're an entrepreneur, author. I mean, you've got is it a candle business? I mean, you're doing a lot of things. So if you mix it all together and think about, this show is about, the formula for owning your career. Sheryl, what would you say is your formula from your lessons learned? What are the successful ingredients for thriving in your career?
I would believe that the formula would be not to expect to go from A to B to C to D. My journey went from A to D to C to F to G to Z. Every point in your process can teach you, is a teachable moment. And I became comfortable in not knowing everything. And I wasn't obsessed about doing things wrong, but I turned it into what could be right. And then I would look to the opportunities and the lessons in things that I did not get right. It's taking a risk. It's being intentional about your goal. So risk and intentionality equals goal objectivity, I would say. And I use that formula in life, but I've also honed it in to identify where I am better suited. As I rise, I evolve, and I have to rebrand according to where I'm going. And when I started with my play, the off-Broadway play, which evolved into the speaking, which evolved into the Women's Worth Awards, which has evolved into other speaking engagements, which involved to the book because I wanted to reach larger audiences. And then it's still evolving because I feel like I've called a truce with myself because I'm very intentional about what I put in my space. So I created the aromatherapy line called Truce. And truth is actually an acronym for truth, your relevance, your uniqueness, choose yourself, and elevate your mind. And all of that encompass represents what I stand for now. So everything has come full circle, and I'm still expanding and rebranding. And that's where Sheryl Hatwood Enterprises, she came into play, because now I'm focusing on that aspect. I still have the theatrical and the events, but to a smaller degree, and because I'm more focused on the impact with the personal. I like personal conversations, and this to me is like so ideal.
I wrote down the evolution of you, because, and I love that you are giving our listeners permission to evolve and permission to try different things in your career, and just to embrace it, to lean into it. I
Yes.
love that. So where are you evolving to today?
Today, I'm still concentrating on, the more I evolved, I realized I want to impact a larger audience, and how will I be able to do that? So I'm rebranding to see how I can reach more audiences. I'm rebranding myself to, like, I'm always taking courses to develop my communication, to develop, my perspectives and my critical. I'm always developing myself to where I want to go. I've never stopped learning. If I could be a professional student, that's what I should be. But I'm an information hoarder, and I love information, and I love to be prepared for opportunities that would normally pass me by because I'm not prepared. So I love to be prepared. I'm constantly developing. I'm constantly growing, and I don't always get it right, but I do not focus on the what could go wrong. I focus on what I could learn, and then I draw on experiences from people who are where I want to be, or have been where I want to be. And I'm not afraid to ask for help now. I would say now, because I sometimes get so focused that I want to continue to do things by myself, because I know that I like things done a certain way, and that I like things done like immediately. But what I found is that I was stretching myself across. I can't be the master of every task. There's always someone that can do it better than you. And I had to release the controls off of certain aspects of what I do, and allow somebody else to feed into me. Because other perspectives are good too. And that has helped give me a breathing moment. And it's helped me to reintroduce myself to self-care, and, taking some downtime instead of just being go, go, go. Because I think as women, we think being busy is productive, and it's really not. I found that I was grinding, busy, but I wasn't really getting things done like I used to. So my mind was burning out, because I was trying to do things and doing everything and doing nothing at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. What was the climax where you decided enough is enough? I've got to change this. I've got to evolve yet again.
Well, when I'm having conversations with my husband or my daughter or my family, I realized that I was listening, hearing what they said, but not really listening, because I was focusing on the what's next. After this call, I'm going to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. And I wasn't really focused. And then it came to a point where I was just, I felt like I was just sitting there wondering, why can't I focus? And my daughter called it out, because she's just as honest as I am, and says, Mom, you need to just focus on one thing. When you're talking to me, it seems like you're focused on so many different things. And I never want my family to feel like my career is taking precedence over their attention. And that was enough for me to say, one thing at a time. There's no such thing as multitasking, because something always suffers when you're trying to do. You give 50% here, 30% here, 20%. Nothing gets your 100% in multitasking. So I've identified that my focus is what I'm doing at the moment. I've turned off, I do technology breaks. I take myself on. I just came from a women's retreat, and I'm going to try and do that at least twice a year, where I fast from technology, computers, phones. I phone everyone. Don't call me. I won't be answering my phone. I'm really just winding down. I just came to unwind and retreat. And it's so important. And I feel like I got my cadence back and my mindset back and my focus back, because I was really scattered for at least a year and a half. I was going, and suffering in my self-care, taking care of myself.
I wrote down multitasking. I want to hone in on that, Sheryl, because oftentimes in our careers, we are asked to multitask. You know, we don't have the luxury of just focusing on one thing, because we have got all these stakeholders who are wanting a piece of us and sometimes wanting it at the same time. So how do you carry that multitasking or the slash through the multitasking into your career and make it work?
I say yes to one thing, and if I can't, it's just a solid no. And as you know, I'm transitioning in my current career, and I'd still work at corporate. And I've set clear boundaries. They're stressing well-being, and well-being is a priority for my team. It's something I take very seriously, and I don't compromise it when their rush is somebody else's misplanning does not become my urgency. And if I am not able to accommodate it in a healthy way, and I said this, I'm not going to be always on. I can't be on this always on, because it's a tendency to build anxiety, and coming to work and doing that it's not healthy. So I've learned to set clear boundaries. 5 o'clock, no, I'm not having a meeting at 7 o'clock. That's my family time. If it can't wait till the next morning, then you have to try and get someone else to do it. It's just that clear. And they might not agree, and it's created some strife, I guess, or not understanding, but you teach people how to treat you by what you say yes to.
Powerful. And sometimes it takes us a long time to really stand in our power and to believe that we are allowed to say no. I have a memorable career moment where I said no and it went left. And it's a career defining moment, because you have to learn how to package the no. I have found over the years that you can say no, but pay attention to how you package that no, because
Right.
of the lasting impact that it can have.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've basically set the parameters around the team. I've set up, what happens in certain instances. Like I have contingency plans. If this, then this. It's not always without a solution, but the no is to me and to my time. I can't be dragged into every emergency, every urgency. Figure it out on yourself, or use the alternative methods that I've developed to self-help yourself. And I'm very tactful in my no. I can turn enemies into friends with my no's, and I don't do it abruptly, and I don't do it disrespectfully. So I really do take in consideration that somebody's urgency may really feel urgent to them. And when I'm speaking now, it's because that's the strength in which I can say my no, and I really believe in what I say, but it's not how I present it to the other person. I present my strength, but I also present the humanity and understanding that their rush is important to them, and here's what you can do. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do this for you, and here are some alternative methods.
Love that. Love that. Love that. So what are some resources that you've learned from this evolutionary process that would be helpful to our listeners, for them to evolve, to get comfortable with evolving and being intentional? What are some resources that you can share with the audience?
I read, and I listen to people that I want to mimic. So I love how Michelle Obama speaks. I love how Oprah is able to shift and, you know, hold a conversation. I love TD Jakes, how he story tells. So I try and use something, and I watch them, and I try and use what I like from them, because I don't want to copy them. I just want to incorporate how well they do something and make it my own. And so I mirror people who have been where I've been. I've reached out to people on LinkedIn, and is a great source of professional people and resources that are there, where people are. I feel that they're more willing to help you when you reach out and not try and sell something at the same time. So I've reached out and said, you know, I see that you're doing this. This is something I want to do in my career. Can you help me navigate how you decided or how you came to be, or give me resources that would help me? I reach out to people. I'm not afraid to ask for the help that I need, because, as I said, I don't have the answers. So books, videos, YouTube, YouTube is such a great resource. And I've tended now to stay off of a lot of social media. I used to be on Facebook and Instagram all the time. And I realized I was losing like 1 to 2 hours of my life just looking at everyone else. And while I could have been using that time to, you know, thoughtfully, and using it to educate myself in other ways, or reaching out to people. So resources is a great way. Tapping into your own creativity, being still and being quiet. You'd be surprised to hear what your own voice is telling you when you're not doing anything. When you just remain still and get into a space where there's no noise, just white noise, you'll be amazed at what your mind is trying to tell you. And I think that's it. Go to professional services. Use resources that are available. Your course, when I did it as a support to you, but it had so much information. And just because, you know, some people believe you can only get information from people that are, you know, way up way up the pole, way far ahead of you, when you can reach out to your colleagues, because they've gone through things that you haven't yet experienced, that I can plug into my mind and say, well, Simone said, this is what you do in these cases, because I'm a note taker too. Mm-hmm. And I thought your course and your book were well done. And I'm not there to support all your courses, but I'm always cheering you on with all your accomplishments and your successes. Simone, you've been such a great asset to so many people. And I realized that more when I was in one of your courses, and all great things were said about you. So I just want to encourage you to keep on, because you could encourage so many people, and sometimes we need to hear it too. So that's for you.
Oh, thank you. Listeners, I'm getting an extra blessing today. Thank you, Sheryl. I appreciate that. She's talking about the Power of Owning Your Career book and the Power of Owning Your Career workshop. So I appreciated you attending, and I always have a great time in those sessions. I learned so much, and we're in this together, you know, and so I thank you for saying we can't know it all, but we need to invest our time and resources. And you dropped a nugget there about social media. You can get caught up in just watching other people's lives and letting yours just be stagnant, stalled, you know, if you're not pouring into it and intentionally driving to where it is you want to go in your career. So, you know, to be mindful for looking for time, looking for knowledge. Success leaves clues. And that's what Sheryl was saying. Let's start paying attention to people you admire. Can you talk to us about sponsorship? I know before we got on the air, you were talking a bit about sponsorship. How have you found sponsorship to be useful in your career?
Sponsorship is ideal because, and this is where I didn't know the difference until you mentioned it at your workshop. And what the sponsor will go into a meeting and talk on your behalf, and a mentor basically talks with you to, you know, to gear you to how to take the steps. Sponsor kind of does the same thing, but on a greater degree, and has the connections that you need in order to get to where you're going. And they're also able to give you the resources, and they're also able to get you in front of the right people who can, like yesterday, I had a great opportunity, and I made sure I used it and spoke up. Just so you know, I'm here. I'm at this table, and I'm speaking. So that was it. A sponsor is so important for a woman in a career to help them move, because not necessarily for women who want to help other people. Because I'm not secure. I'm not, what's the word I'm searching for? I am not satisfied just making it to a certain level. I am always looking for somebody else to help bring them up too. So one of the things I look for in a sponsor is someone who's willing to help. I've gone to meetings where the speaker says, call me, I'll help you. And I've called, I've emailed, crickets. So I look for women who walk the walk, and this woman walked the walk and called me, set up a meeting. I did. She reached out to me. She set up meetings. She's like, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And she's helping me navigate new connections and new resources that I would have never had access to before. So sponsorship is important. And it's usually, for me, it's usually like a C-level person, a C-suite person that is able to help me the direction that I'm going. It's not necessarily so, but somebody that can get you to where you want to be. So sponsorship is so important. Find somebody who can get you in front of, not just to sit at the table, but to eat too, right? It's not just a presence. It's not just a presence. You have to be a participant in that meeting. And some people think they just want to be at the table. No, I want to show you what I'm capable of doing. So give me that opportunity to show and speak on my behalf. Thank you for bringing me here. I'm not going to disappoint my sponsor, and I'm definitely have been prepared for this moment.
And that goes, Sheryl, you're an entrepreneur as well as an entrepreneur. So that sponsorship can be in the internal confines of a corporate space, but also as entrepreneurs, we need sponsors to help open doors for us. So that applies as well, I would imagine.
Absolutely, you're right. And in entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship, I've never heard that term, so I learned something else today. So internally in corporate, we understand that's necessary. I think entrepreneurs don't really understand the significance and the reality of what a sponsorship can do if you're able to connect with the right person. And that could be somebody within an organization and within the corporate world, or it could be another entrepreneur that is accessible through another friend. Every avenue should be able to connect you to something else. And I never dismiss a connection, because you never know when that person may become valuable. And I do my best to keep in touch with people and support where I can, but I never try and diminish. If you don't see me live, I'm trying to support you with your business and buying your products. Or if I can't come to your meetings, I'll at least purchase a ticket just to know that, I support you. I can't be there, but I'm supporting you anyway. So you can find other ways to invest in other people, and they'll remember that, and they can actually speak to someone they connect with. It's like a web. It's like a spider web. You can build this web of support just by kindness. Kindness matters. Sowing seeds of compassion and kindness are so important to me, and I love to be around women who lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. If I'm part of a conversation where a woman is tearing another person down, it's just like, I do not want to be part of your world, because when I turn my back, I could be the topic of conversation. And I've walked away. And I've even addressed situations. Is this gossip for you guys, or is speaking about this a benefit to the person you're talking about? Because what's the benefit? Is this something you can say to her face? And they always look at me like, who does she think she is? But that's okay. I rather be dismissed for taking a position than be involved because I decided not to.
Mm, mm. I wrote down kindness matters. That could be a episode title as well. And speaking of kindness, Sheryl, you have a gift for our listeners. So tell us about what you are gifting to our audience.
I'm gifting one of my book, and my book is based on my life story. I suffered and survived sexual abuse and domestic abuse, suicide, drug abuse, alcohol abuse. I've been through it all. I don't look like what I've been through. I'm definitely not where I should be based on what I've lived through. But this book is called The Restored Soul. And it's definitely a book that shows you the resilient spirit, the power of voice once it takes you through the journey, but it also takes you to where I started to find me and I understood. And this book to me is to encourage other people, whatever you're going through, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same ailments that I've gone through, but whatever you're going through, you can use that as a springboard to help other people. It may not look like it while you're in it, but God does wonders with a life, and beauty from ashes, and it's just an amazing testimony of faith and the resiliency and overcoming. And also I have a candle called Truth, which is a scent I created, and it's, as I said, Truth stands for the truth, relevance, uniqueness, choose you, and elevate your mind. And I created this aromatherapy line because I've called a truce with myself. I've stopped trying to show up for everyone else. I've called a truce with being comfortable with who I am and what I speak about, and not trying to shrink because it makes somebody else uncomfortable. I've called a truce with myself because I'm intentional about who and what I put in my space. So I love candles, and candles represent to me just being a light where you are. And that candle and truce is for someone who is able, who wants to continue to be the light and wants to call a truce with themselves.
I love that. Sheryl, we're going to invite you to our LinkedIn group. Listeners, we have the LinkedIn group called The Power of Owning Your Career. So we're going to invite Sheryl to join us after the episode releases over there so she can help to pick the winner of that candle and the book. So we'll think of something creative to post, and then we can pick a winner to get those items too. So thank you, Sheryl, for that kind gift. It's beautiful. I love it.
You're welcome, Simone. I really appreciate just being on this platform to share empowerment, to share what's good. I'm tired of the news. So I made a pledge to myself that any platform I'm giving it will always be to encourage and to inspire and to impact, and to anywhere I speak, it has to align with who I am. And you are definitely a mentor to many. I'm sure you sponsor other people, but you are definitely an example of leadership, of humanity, kindness, and empowering other people. And I really appreciate you asking me to be a part of your podcast.
Thank you so much for being a guest, and thank you for pouring into me, because you don't have to. And so I receive it. And I thank you. I've enjoyed our conversation thoroughly. So please tell our listeners one way that they can stay connected with you after the show.
Well, as I mentioned, Simone, you can reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram. The best way will be LinkedIn. It's Sheryl at Sheryl Hatwood. LinkedIn, it's just Sheryl Hatwood. Look for Sheryl Hatwood at LinkedIn. Look for Sheryl Hatwood on Instagram, or Sheryl Hatwood on Facebook. I can't make all of those. A lot of people have different names for their different. I don't have time to remember. I'm getting into years of my life where I have senior moments and I can't remember everything. So I just kept it simple. It's Sheryl Hatwood on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And I always say I respond to every email within 48 hours. So if you do not hear from me within 48 hours of sending something, it's because I haven't received your message. So.
Love that. Love that. Accountability. And she's dropping accountability in there as well. Well, Sheryl, I want to thank you for being a guest on the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. It has been a pleasure to hear your career journey to the driver's seat. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simone, for having me.
I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this week's empowering career story on the podcast. If you did, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Wherever you listen to the podcast, be sure that you are subscribing and that you rate and review the podcast. It's so important as we continue to spread the word of career empowerment. In addition, you can head over to the LinkedIn platform and join the Power of Owning Your Career discussion group. There you can have access to the guests who have been on the podcast, as well as others listening to the podcast, as well as myself, where we can continue the conversation. I hope to see you on that platform. You can also email me at pooyc@simonemorris.com if you have a suggestion for guest or a message that you want me to hear personally. Thanks so much, and make it an inspiring, empowering week in your career.